record to the cloud. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I'm actually visiting you from Riverton, and I just quite literally pulled into town, and so quite a whirlwind to do this the day after the election. I figured the afternoon would give me a little bit more time, but dynamics being such that they are, I had to get up here and some things we had to check in the morning. So I'm going to do my best. I might even need a little bit of your help with a couple of them because I am working off of a PowerPoint that I had put together last night and was trying to update it. And just dynamics being such that they are, it was a crazy night. So at our house, for the record, oh, I should have put the picture. My husband and I each have our computers. We have an iPad. We have Cowboy State Daily up on the TV in the basement. We had all three kids and my mom all, pizza and just digging in because it's our Super Bowl. So it was kind of fun. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to screen share a little presentation that I put together, and then can you all see that? Okay. Okay. And just feel free to pipe in as you need to raise your hand because I'm screen sharing. I might not see everybody. So please do go ahead and raise your hand or just chime in. But we can take the hour, we can go shorter. It just really depends on all of you. So as you know, big night. There's some folks in the state that said this was arguably the most important election in many, many years in Wyoming. And, a big portion of the dynamic was just simply getting people to show up and vote. And so I felt like the momentum was there in terms of numbers. I don't know if anyone here, that is a dynamic I don't have a feeling for right now today. If voter turnout was higher or not, that is just a number I haven't quite paid attention to just yet. But it seemed like in terms of the early voting and things like that, the numbers were up from prior elections. So I am really glad to see that. Um, and some historic races. It's been a while since we've had all five electeds up, plus our U.S. House seat, plus our U.S. Senate seat. And so we had a lot of dynamics at play here. And you all know that. And so, as you know, I'm just going to go ahead and move through where things landed. If I can get there we go. So you guys all know that the results to this, a dynamic I thought was interesting about this race for the governor was that a lot of folks thought, he might squeak through with the others splitting the vote. But if you look at where the numbers landed, it was a pretty handy win for Eric Barlow, for Senator Barlow. And so some dynamics that were discussed last night were, do we need to look at runoff elections and all of that, which I know has come up several times. Arguably, I think that might be more at play in the U.S. House race than this one when you look at how the numbers shook out. But great turnout. Eric will face opponents in the general election, so I know he's not done. But really solid win for Senator Barlow. And then you know the results of the rest of the top five electeds. Robert Short, and these were all very handily won in my opinion in terms of the numbers. Secretary of State, the auditor, Christie didn't have a primary, but she still worked and showed up at a lot of events across the state. Kurt Meyer serving as the treasurer and superintendent of public instruction with Steve Harshman. And the important dynamic with the top fives that I know a lot of you know is that it's not just their own offices that matters. It's the role that they play combined on the state land board and making decisions that impact the beneficiaries at that level. And so as I look at with my experience, the people who are now on that board, we have decades of experience with people who understand the why, the issues, the numbers, um, the elements that are important for benefiting the school kids of Wyoming, things like that. And I think we might see some really neat and measured decisions coming out of that body. That's my opinion. So obviously, you do know I didn't get this changed last night, so sorry for that. That was one that snuck by me this morning. I thought I had changed that to Chuck Gray. So um, I thought there might be other dynamics with that one with some of the other folks who were in contention for that race. But as you saw where the numbers came out, I think Chuck ended up with 25% in a very, very crowded race. If we just had one or two other people not in that race, the results might have been different. So that was an interesting dynamic that I know folks are likely going to be talking about for quite a while. So the dynamics, let's move to the any questions about broader races? Anything? I'll move into the legislature now. Remember the dynamics. We have two Democrats in the Senate, 29 Republicans. In terms of the split, the balance of power is very, very tight in the Senate. I would argue that depending on what the issue is, it's one vote away, maybe three. And so the dynamics in the Senate are pretty close. In the House, this turnover is from last time. Um, Five Democrats, 57 Republicans. But you know, the leadership did change over to the Freedom Caucus. And we will have different outcomes now, given that so many of those races were lost, and including leadership. And so I know you've seen the headlines. This is the big headline of the day was how many of those Freedom Caucus seats were lost. I think it's 14 in total. That we now have opportunities to see other people in leadership in both chambers, the House particularly, because the Senate seemed to manage a balance last session in terms of who is in leadership. And so that is big and a dynamic that will impact everybody. If you think about oh, that's just a community college map. We'll get into some of the races here. Um, Committee chairman will change. Whole committees will change. If you look at the upcoming revenue committee, um, I think it's probably 80% of that committee lost their seats. The chairman of that committee, the House chairman, lost his seat. Chairman of Minerals Committee lost his seat. Appropriations lost his seat. So major changes. And the whole appropriations committee, the nerd in me is can't wait for a change in that committee to have experienced appropriators in many of those seats. So what's ahead of us? I'm going to apologize right now. I don't have all of these filled in because of my timing. But we did have some of these were open seats. I tried to highlight some of the so Locke is another one right here that that lost his seat, and we will see some changes over there. Major Locke lean in Casper. Jarvis hung on to her seat with another challenge from Jeanette Ward. Senator Ide also losing. There was an open seat with Senator Landon, so that was at play, but some pretty major changeover in Casper College. Edis did not win over there. So I'm going to update this, folks. Please don't give this, look at this as the end. I will get it updated for all of you because I know it's kind of nice to see who in your college ended up where, so you can have a snapshot of it. But I just did not get it done, and I apologize for that.
Hey, Aaron, what happens with Harshman's seat now that he's moving to the superintendent job?
So that was an open seat,
Okay.
and that Brian Costello won that race.
Okay.
That is a seat where I didn't know, I don't know any of those people.
Okay.
So that's a dynamic. I don't know the kind of the leaning of that person in terms of, you know,
Okay.
within the
All right.
Republican Party. So open seat. Yeah. Um, so some of these more pay attention more to what I say than what is on the screen because I have this is my very well marked up, and some of these were changed because of the dynamics that we heard earlier, even with RJ's race. I thought he was not going to win. I thought Lauren Shainfeld was not going to win. So lots of dynamics. You have to make sure every vote counts. So if we look here to Central's territory here, Senator Case, was a race everybody was watching. Liz Storer will head to a general. Lloyd Larson was another race everybody was watching. Um, Pepper did not have a race. She was uncontested. And these other two were ones that I didn't get put in here because Guggen Moss was an open seat. So, folks, Carl Manning,
Yes.
um,
And he's a friend of the college. He'll be
he's
great.
a friend of the college. Good. And I think I remember you telling me that, Dr. Tyndall. So, that's excellent. And then John Winter was another one that, do you know that off the top of your head? That was one I didn't get.
Didn't.
So that's one I'll have to look that one up. That's an open seat. And I don't know any of those people. So
Okay.
there's some dynamics at play where we'll have to do our work and get to know some of these folks. Um, if we look at EWC, the big race over here, there was a couple of them, but the Ogden Chip Nyman Challenge, Ogden came out on top of that one. It wasn't a takeaway. It was only a couple hundred votes. But that was a race that was being watched even nationally. Taft Love did come out on top with his race, and he's got kind of Eastern Cheyenne and a pretty broad district. Um, Troy Claycomb was the open seat winner in the Chip Nyman seat. So that's a new person that we'll have to get to know. Tommy Strzok was challenged by longtime county commissioner Jim Willocks, and Tommy Strzok came out on top in that race. I think that was an interesting outcome on that one. Joe Speckner, who was an open seat for Scott Smith's race since he was running for treasurer, so is another turnover that, and I'll color code these a little bit better so you can more easily see maybe who are new people, things like that, so that we can keep track of those a little easier. And then Representative Fornstrom did win his race out in East Cheyenne. Oh, shoot, sorry. Dr. Watson's coming back in. Um, Gillette, here's another one. So kind of the bigger races was that race to fill Senator Barlow's seat, Abby Angelos, and was in an open contest with Dwayne Dillinger, and Abby came out on top of that one. To fill her seat, Earl Collier won that race. I don't know that person.
Freedom
A
Caucus. He's Freedom Caucus.
freedom. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to make a note there. John Bear's race. Doug Moore came out with, um, can I show the full slide? Sorry. Does that help you a bit more? I don't know who was asking that. So Doug Moore, that was a very closely watched race, right, by a lot of people, especially with John being the chairman of appropriations. And Doug came out pretty strongly in terms of the results on that race.
Doug will be a friend of the colleges. Once things settle down, we'll wrap him in. He's from
Yeah.
Gillette. I went to high school with him, so yeah, he'll be good. He'll be
Okay.
good. Yeah.
Good. I've spoken with him once. He went to the Wyoming Business Alliance forum, and quick hallway conversation. It was all it was, but it was a opportunity for me to tell him who I am, what I do, and so Janelle to kind of support you guys in
Yep.
that
He'll be
space.
good. He'll be
Yeah.
good.
Let's see. Knapp came out on top. Clouston. A Tarver's race. I don't have that one off the top of my head yet.
Rhonda
Oh,
Bowler is the assumed winner, and not by
okay.
much. It was Bill Fortner and Rhonda Bowler, but Rhonda, I mean, we're talking like 6 or 7 votes.
That's
But
what I thought. That's why I don't have it on there because I
yep,
thought it was
yep,
going to be Fortner.
yep,
So,
yep.
okay. And I don't know her at all, so we'll have to
She'll be a
work to
friend.
get to
She's
know
from the
her.
healthcare background. She's been on the hospital board. She was also on, she's been on other boards, but she'll be good. She'll be good.
Good.
Yeah.
A comment that I can make personally, that, it's use me as the person who said it because I am. But a lot of folks who are winning these races are active in their communities. They are on other boards. They have been involved. They have been of service. And so that is a theme I'm seeing with many of these. That was, I think, part of the conversation, just to put it out there on the table, that a lot of folks who have won these seats from a certain part of the party were not active in their communities. And so I think it's a dynamic that's at play.
Rhonda has a healthcare background. I think she owns a home health business. So anyway, she'll be good. I look forward to working with her in this capacity.
That's awesome. And so it's another lesson in, don't count the chickens till, don't count the eggs till, everyone's home, because we just have to make sure every single vote is counted. And they do matter. So LCCC, lots of people here. Big changes. And this is where I live. So we were watching several of these races. I'll start on the left part of the slide here with Steve Johnson being defeated by Luke Reiner. Luke Reiner is a former, extensive military background and former director of the Department of Transportation, among other positions. And the numbers speak for themselves in that race. Similar with Ann Lucas being defeated by Jessica Crowder. Jessica has experience in working with the Office of State Lands and Investments. No, her husband did that. Jessica has a background in ag, I believe.
She was
And
with the Stock Growers Land Trust for a long
Stock Growers
time.
Land Trust. Thank you. Yes. Her husband was at OSLI. But Jessica, again, just showed up, worked hard. These people knocked every single door. And I think that's part of why they won. Chestick is over in Laramie, and I believe he's got a general election. Same with Trey Sherwood. A big news coming out of Laramie was the defeat of Ocean Andrew by Cam Wright. Ocean Andrew is affiliated with the Freedom Caucus and chairman of Education Committee, so yet another chairman position. And Cam Wright is a professor at the university, assistant dean of engineering, I think something like that. And I've met him a couple of times. I don't know him well, but I believe he will likely be a friend to higher ed across the board. So that'll be, I look forward to working with him. I think Carly has a general. Provenza, Evie Brennan. This was Senator Brennan, a big race people were watching because Daniel Singh jumped in to challenge her from the House. Evie Brennan's numbers speak for themselves. She knocked, I think, every door, and the numbers really showed her favor with that challenge. So that was one that I know everyone was watching in the Senate. There's a new person now in Daniel Singh's seat. His name is Andrew Server. I believe he was kind of handpicked by Daniel. I think his background is as an educator, maybe at the high school level. But personally, I don't know much about him. So we're all kind of making some assumptions. But, you know, when I was going back through this structure of the PowerPoint, that sometimes when people get in there, we think we know how they are, but then once we see how they vote, where they affiliate, where they, where their leadership abilities develop, that our assumptions are not correct. So it's kind of nice to see that sometimes. I already mentioned Taft Love. Big race that a lot of people were watching was the Senator Hutchins race, which is West and North Cheyenne and a pocket of South Cheyenne. It's a weird district. And Lauren Shainfeld was successful in that bid. She will have a general election as well. But it was a four-way primary with a former member of the House of Representatives, Ben Hornock, as the major opponent who we thought for a while had won the race. So that was big news. Senator Pappas, Mark Rinney, who's a current city councilman in Cheyenne, was uncontested, and so Mark will move into that spot to fill that seat from Senator Pappas. Nethercott, Crum, Rothfuss, okay. Geringer, no contest in the primary. Landon Brown's seat was an interesting one as well. He didn't run again. The person, X.C. Brown, who was run against him for several cycles, I believe, ran again. But newcomer Boyd Wiggum, I think that's supposed to be an M there. He prevailed quite handily in that contest. So that was one that a lot of folks were watching. Lee Filer was uncontested. And so a lot of these folks, this is a neat dynamic that I saw across the state for these legislators who were uncontested. They were out working for folks who had major contests. And so that was neat to see that sort of teamwork. Filer, Fornstrom, I mentioned. Gary Brown in Cheyenne was handily defeated by first responder, firefighter Aaron Edwards. And I've had the pleasure to meet her. I don't know her well, but I think we will have some opportunity with her to establish a good working relationship, whereas we didn't have one before. I can say those things out loud. Bob Nicholas won. He has traditionally had some pretty decent competition, and he seems to come out on top every time, but he did come out again as the winner in his seat. Jacob Wasserberger's seat was open, and Dan McIntosh, who currently is an employee at LCCC, prevailed in the primary. There's a pretty major general election that everyone will be watching with a person who on the Democrat ticket who has run before, and I know will be working very hard. And that district traditionally can go Democrat, Republican. I don't know since they redistricted where the numbers fall on that, but I know they'll both be working very hard. And then Clarence Stivar won his district again in South Cheyenne. So a lot of change in Laramie County or LCCC's service territory. Northwest College, again, some of these, because of timing, I didn't get them put in here or we didn't know. So I just threw in there RJ's because when I went to bed, I didn't think RJ had won. So that was another example of holy cow, it's so fun to wake up in the morning if you know someone who's in a race to see how they ended up. So that was a changeover from Senator Larson, who I believe was running for county commissioner. I don't know how that turned out. Did he
He was
be
not
successful?
He was not successful. He was
not successful. Okay.
Yeah, that's better than saying he lost, but he lost.
Okay. So there's lots of levels to other races too that I would love to have more conversations to learn from all of you. kind of where some dynamics are. And for those of you who are coming to Riverton, I'm sure we'll have those conversations. Dalton Banks did um, continue on with his seat. Paul Heft with his challenge, or not challenge, but to run for Senator Larson's seat, was open. And John Wetzel, was John the mayor?
Mhm.
He was the mayor. Okay, so
He
John
still is,
prevailed.
of Powell.
Okay, he still is. Yep. And John prevailed in that race. One of the first races to be announced of the night, aside from Harriet's race, was Nina Weber. Quinn Blair came out successful in that race with a very handily defeat over Nina Weber. The open seat for Rodriguez Williams, I think I have David Hill is winning
That's
that.
correct. That's correct. And he won.
I don't know David Hill.
He's a
Um,
lawyer and he's an alum of Northwest College.
okay,
He will be a advocate for us.
okay, very nice.
Mhm.
Um, nice change there. Winter seat was one that was four people, some from Thermop, some from Matizzi. I don't know how that one came out, and I don't
Alan
know any of
Hogg
those
won.
people.
Alan Hogg from Matizzi. He's
Okay,
also alum of Northwest College. So he will be hopefully a positive for us. I've met him and talked to him a couple times.
okay,
Yeah,
good, good.
solid rancher.
Okay, okay. Um, very interesting to hear. I am hearing some things about the whether or not Senator French fills out his term. So I
Right.
don't know what that
They're
looks
hearing
like.
that as well.
Yeah, I'm hearing that from a few sources. So
So
well,
I was curious. I assume that means he would probably hold his position until after the general election before he might choose to retire.
probably,
Is that a
probably,
fair estimate? Okay.
probably. And in that case, then um, people can work quickly to get it filled before.
In the committee in
Yep,
Park County, right?
yep, yep. So I don't know. There might be some dynamics with that, Dr. Watson, that I'm not aware of.
I believe the dynamic that we would just want to remember is it would probably be a Freedom Caucus person filling a Freedom Caucus position.
Yeah, and not surprising, right?
No,
Not surprising, but a little bit more of a balanced, I'll say it like that, a balanced um, roster here for Northwest College's legislators.
for our region for sure. Yeah.
Sheridan College, another few big races that oh, I didn't get all of these changed, so forgive me there. The Biteman race was one that a lot of people were watching because Pendergraft moved over from the House to run for Senate. But Manchester small business bakery owner Melissa Butcher came out on top of that one, very with really strong numbers. Tom Kelly, that is not correct on that one. That was Ryan Kaltiska. Sorry, right? Um, was that Kelly's race?
Yes, and then
It
the
was.
Pendergraft seat was Micah Sturdivant.
Okay, Micah, yes, and
They are
Sturdivant, is
wonderful.
that how you say it?
Yeah,
Okay,
they're wonderful. So
okay.
it's great news.
Okay, great news. That's okay. Thank you for that. Um, it's so funny when there are some folks you hear about and you don't know them, and but Micah, the name Micah just I kept remembering. I think that's someone that would be good in that spot. Then the Coltisca race was one that a lot of people were watching because it was probably what a lot of people say is one of the founding people of the Freedom Caucus was Mark Jennings in that race, and Coltisca came out very strongly in the results in that race. So I'll get this updated as well. The Bratton and Susan Bigelow
Yeah,
race. It ended up with Bratton being called on that. Is that correct?
that's correct. It was about 200 votes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. That was one where I mean, watching it all night long, they're very, very close. And so I was I didn't know how it would look in the morning if it would change. Um so some major changes here too. Um and then if we look to Western, let's see, lots of big change over here too. McCann was that race was, or he was defeated by Walmsley, who is, I think, the former fire chief, if that's right. I think Tiffany's on here. And I've met him. He's a pretty neat guy, and I think well known in the community. Pam Thayer is just fine in her seat. Marlene Brady lost to Tony Nemiak. That they've flip-flopped in that seat. He used to have that seat and then was defeated by Marlene. The numbers showed that he was highly favored to come back in this race. Bob Davis, his seat is open, and that was one I didn't get. Let me see if I can find that quickly. Oh, Imam O'Toole. He was uncontested. Um, I don't know that person, but I think he'll be a good person to work for the colleges. I'm not sure. Bob is running for Larry Hicks' seat, but he will face a general election. So he was the Republican going into the general election. So Wendy Schuler did run, she did have some opponents and she did come out on top. Stacey Jones was uncontested. Andrew Byron was uncontested. Albert Summers, former Speaker of the House, ran again for his old seat where Mike Schmid decided not to run again. So Albert did have, I think, at least a three-way primary. And if you know Sublette County, they were from people from all different parts of the county, which can be really interesting dynamics for an election. And Albert came out very much on top of that race.
Aaron, so
Yep.
in terms of leadership set for Albert, because does he does he get to jump the queue because he's back in office in terms of
No
leadership or anything, or
likely not, Brad. What could be available, because he has experience on appropriations, obviously being speaker and majority floor leader, he could be elevated to, maybe a chairman position or something like that. I don't think he'll go back into leadership in terms of Speaker of the House type of leadership. That is rare. It's unprecedented. I would be surprised. I think it's time someone else's, I know others are thinking about it, but I don't know if Albert's expecting anything like that. Is that okay to answer it like that?
Yeah.
Big talk of the night again, chairman of the House Minerals Committee, Scott Heiner, was defeated by Kenneth Roberts. And I don't know Kenneth Roberts, but I know that was a race a lot of people were watching. McKay Erickson came out okay. Joe Webb was also defeated by Chad Stevens. Worf was also defeated. I don't have his listed. That was one I didn't know. I'll look for that one. But he also lost his race. So super interesting how many people lost their races. I'll look for that one. Cody Wiley was okay. JT Larson's seat, because he decided not to run again, will be decided in the general election. So that will be a race between Elizabeth Bingham and Ra Reinholtz. I don't know either one of those people, but potential for some pretty decent turnover here for Western. So that's kind of a rundown. I already mentioned earlier, I'll stop the share now. I mentioned earlier that, what's next is general elections. So for folks who still have those sorts of contests ahead of them, that will be big. I know a lot of county commission races, city council races are still, narrowing down. So pay attention to those races. I know folks who are aspiring for leadership in both the House and Senate are already talking. And we'll see how some of that plays out. But the biggest the biggest opportunity, I think we're going to see it in the House. The biggest change we're going to see is going to be in the House. The Senate, as you know, kind of had a mixed model last year of folks from different sides of the Republican Party being in leadership and working together. That might change more if they don't have to compromise on that, if I can say that very politically correctly. The House will absolutely change with the number of Freedom Caucus seats that were lost. So leadership, I expect, will change. Every single committee chairman will change, and the makeups of those committees will look quite different. So all of that will happen then. Let's see. Usually it's like a week or two after the general election when they caucus and decide those committees, the leadership, and then committee assignments. So that's another big night for people like me where we get excited to see the results. So in terms of timing, and so we can all kind of think about what that looks like. We should be smart about really being intentional and strategic about how we want to communicate at the legislative level, what types of issues we want to really work on and dig in, because I think there's some really neat opportunity where we're not fighting, but we're working towards something. And we did have some successes where we weren't fighting with the last couple of years or 4 years, but I think we have even more successes in our future. So general election, what I haven't mentioned at all is the citizens initiative. And so I have told you before, we need the primary to happen, and then we really hit go. We're getting there. And so for those of you who are attending the WACD board meeting and the commission meeting in the next 2 days, we'll talk a lot more about that. And you will see more asks from me. I have sent you kind of a general overview of what we're looking for right now. And like things like op-eds, I'm working very closely with the Department of Revenue to get to the number, so to speak. The cumulative impact right now of everything that's legislatively been implemented on property tax relief is $13 million across the board. And I have a really great graphic that shows it by college. And so you can tell people what we've already done right now has impacted our college by this amount. Where I am also working with the department to get to numbers on what the estimated impact on that citizens initiative could be so that you can use both numbers because it matters. And I've said that repeatedly, that to legislators when these bills are all passing, that you can't just look at this one bill in a vacuum. You need to look at the cumulative impact. And that's how the colleges look at it. So those resources will be available quite literally as soon as I get the number from the Department of Revenue. They are drafted and ready to go. It's just a matter of when we can get them out. And so resources, looking to the WACD website, I'm trying my best to make sure it's updated, it's current. There are resources on there talking about property taxes, the numbers associated with all of the programs. There's a new resource on there talking about what do we mean when we say sustainable funding. It's on our website. Pull it down, use it. Use it when you talk to these new people, because that is a big part, I think, of what we're going to talk about with some of these new folks and some of the opportunities ahead of us. I'll stop there. If what I will also ask you to do is if there's a resource that you feel like you don't have, maybe you can't even quite articulate it, please call me. let me know what I can do to help you as you're having these conversations and you're thinking, gosh, I think we're missing something. Maybe WACT can put something together. Let me know what that is because I will do my darndest to make sure you have it.
So Aaron, a
Yep.
comment and then a statement, I guess, some information and then a kind of question. So Central is going to be doing a resolution against the tax in the fall. Just to let you know, I couldn't, it's really clear how my board stands on that, and that's coming to them. I think it's next week. So that's going to happen. Now the question for you is kind of a political science question. So when the committees are made, it's done by the leading caucus. I mean, I'm just wondering, does the Freedom Caucus really exist now? At what point? I mean, you could have three people, I guess, and could caucus together. Like three Democrats can call it a caucus, I guess. But in terms of formation of committees, who is at the table for that decision?
So that's a great question, Brad, and that's just dynamics. So when we talk about who's in leadership, the big shift so a great example is think about when Albert Summers was Speaker of the House, and his leadership team was not Freedom Caucus. All of the chairmen at that time were not Freedom Caucus. We saw some major changes in the elections where they earned a majority in the House of Representatives, and they elected from their caucus people to be in leadership from top to bottom. And then it's the Speaker of the House who decides who is the chairman of each committee, and his team, mostly it's him, but his team decides then who is on each committee. So that's how that works. I think the numbers I've seen, it's between like 9 and 11 now for people that we think are either known as confirmed and, they've said it out loud, members of the Freedom Caucus and or affiliated, or will likely be in that space. 9 to 11 people now in the House versus, up 24, 32, or whatever the numbers were before. So it was quite a bit different. Whether they continue to caucus together, I don't know. But legislative leadership will be what people consider the Wyoming caucus Republicans. I'm not even sure what the words are these days on what people are calling each other, but not Freedom Caucus, not Freedom Caucus. So
the
I hope that
speaker, whoever's
helps.
chosen as speaker, he
Yep.
basically selects. So that's everything, right?
He or she, yes.
He or she, yeah.
I know. Yes, yes. Yeah. So it's an opportunity and a responsibility when you're in that space.
Does it matter to the community colleges who the speaker is, or we feel like everyone's fairly equally friendly in terms of the Wyoming caucus?
I think the colleges enjoy great support. I mean, we even enjoyed decent support across the board from Wyoming Caucus and Freedom Caucus in the last few years. It just kind of depends on, what the issue is. Is it tied to dollars? Is it tied to long-term vision? I think there's a lot of different dynamics that will be at play. I believe the colleges enjoy a great support across the board. And whoever is the next speaker and Senate president, I believe we will be in a space of great support and opportunity.
Does the public ever have any say in terms
Nope.
of influencing of who the speaker would be at all?
No, I mean, the public had their say yesterday.
All right. I was just wondering because I was going to say if a train wreck's coming and there isn't one coming, but I was just thinking.
No,
okay,
I mean,
so that's
yeah.
my question. Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any other dynamics that I've missed that I can help you kind of sort through? What I will do is, this will be posted, but I will send out this PowerPoint and of course I will do an election, summary. So However, it's easiest. I kind of like how this is broken out by college so that people can see the changes in their districts. So I'll make sure this is all up to date. It's kind of like the very end of session. You can send out the preliminary outcomes, but sometimes you really need all the T's to be crossed and the I's to be dotted to make sure that all the numbers are right. And so even today, with a few of these races being a surprise to me, the very next day, I want to make sure that we're reporting them correctly. So, but we have a lot of work to do, and I'm excited. So, lots more to come.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm going to stop recording and just say thank you to everyone for